It's about that. Good morning, Professor Patra.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good afternoon from Melbourne, from Australia.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, Miss. Hello, Jay.
Hi. Chris here.
Good morning. Good morning. So we'll be starting in another 2 to 3 minutes. Is that okay? You keep in my cabinet. I told for this course. You move it. Right, that's the shared screen you open here. Regarding that content. So both the example लिखा हुआ है लिखा है उसी हिसाब से और कैपिटल को कैपिटल को काफी लाके उसके 3 साल पहले हाँ मैं एक बार जाके भी बोलता आप इसी को अच्छा Where is one? कैमरा काम कर रही है What happened? How it keep on it is coming? Okay, my account because of that. But I cancel.
Good morning, Professor Chandrakupatra. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good morning. It is audible.
Okay. So, shall we start?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. Okay. On behalf of CSIR CBRI, I welcome you all for my student presentation titled Assessment of Tunnel Soil Interaction under Dynamic Loading Conditions. He's basically a AcSIR PhD student, and he did dual degree. He is joint PhD program, partly from AcSIR and from RMIT. And now I am inviting Mr. Amit to give presentation on the topic. Amit?
Hello, Professor. I hope my audio is clear. You can hear me. My name is Amit. I am here to give the defense of my PhD topic on assessment of tunnel soil interaction under dynamic conditions. The primary motivation for this topic has come from past few earthquakes, wherein a significant collapse of tunnels have been found. We can see here the during Daiichi station collapse was observed during Kyogaku earthquake, and also we can see Longoxi tunnel failure during Vincent earthquake. We can also see several failure of tunnels during past few earthquakes. So from these case studies, we could see that more than 12% of tunnels, particularly in epicentral area, were completely collapsed. So with this basis in mind, we when it comes to Indian scenario, most of the tunnels which are coming in the North Indian portion are completely vulnerable because it has been constructed in highly seismic region. If you can see the graph here, where from 2002 to 2020, from 17 lakhs to 100 lakhs people are started using metro tunnel, and also with number of years, the operational metro network is continuously increasing. So, and the soil deposit in these Delhi regions is completely vulnerable, and it contains fine sand, mica, sandy silt, and silty fine sand, which means that this sand is highly liquefiable. So, with these two things in mind, we try to understand how tunnel would interact with soil, and how we can able to monitor different parameters so that we can address the tunnel soil interaction issue. So for this, we initially went with a literature review, and we found that specifically in the experimental studies, mostly people have done their work on dry sand and also liquefiable sand, and mostly they have tried to assess how this bending moment of tunnel would affect the during the earthquake loading. And also some of the literature focuses on numerical study where they have also tried to address the issue of how we can able to reduce the seismicity of tunnel so that tunnel could be safe. So based on this literature review, I come to know that there are limited studies available specifically involving repeated shaking events. Because in the past few earthquakes, such as Tohoku earthquake, Kumamoto earthquake, and Kamamaras earthquake, there are instances of how these repeated shaking events have made catastrophic failure. So we also saw from literature that influence of embedment depth together with frequency has played a major role in the dynamic performance of tunnel. So with these gaps in mind, we formulated our objective. I formulated my objective where the primary objective is to understand the tunnel soil interaction behavior under dynamic conditions. And here primarily I used shake table and also the numerical analysis. We tried to initially address how this effect of embedment depth and frequency would play a major role in behavior of tunnel. And also we after completing these one set of experiments, we move on to influence of varying ground saturation, how these saturation would affect the tunnel soil interaction behavior. Finally, we move to numerical validation of our numerical model to investigate how effect of ground improvement would influence the tunnel soil interaction behavior. So in the test series 1, to address the embedment depth and frequency on behavior of square tunnel, two embedment depths with two different frequencies have been chosen with input motion of 0.2G, 0.3G, and 0.4G was given as an input motion. Here, these 0.2G, 0.3G, and 0.4G is nothing but given one after the other, which means that to replicate how foreshocks and aftershock would influence the tunnel soil interaction behavior. So in further in the series 2, we went on to address how varying saturation would influence the behavior. So for the second case, we went for 25 to 100% saturation, and here also we have used sinusoidal input motion, but from 0.1G to 0.5G input motion we have given. Further, we also moved to circular tunnel, and we also addressed to understand the behavior by giving scale down earthquake. And all these parameters such as acceleration response of soil, pore water pressure, dynamic earth pressure, displacement of soil, and displacement of tunnel have been monitored and to assess the tunnel soil interaction behavior. And after conducting all these tests, we moved to numerical study where initially we validated our numerical model, and then we scaled up into prototype dimension, and we tried to address how this seismicity can be reduced through ground improvement. So for this experimental study, we have used poorly graded sand with a maximum dry density of 16.7 kilometer per meter cube. We also calculated the G by G max value, which means that dynamic shear modulus, which plays a major role in dynamic tunnel soil interaction performance. So for the test series 1, for all these series of tests, we used a shake table of 2 meter by 2 meter dimension with the payload capacity of 3 ton. And the acceleration range was 0.01G to 1G with a test tank dimensions of 1.7 meter by 1 meter by 0.7 meter. We fabricated our tunnel mold, and the dimensions of tunnel is having the length 270 mm and length 740 mm with thickness of 30 mm. 30 mm. And these are the two instrumentation details where in order to measure the how influence of embedment depth and frequency would behave would influence the tunnel soil interaction performance. We used 3 accelerometers, 2 earth pressure cells, and 2 displacement sensors in both the cases of height to width ratio of 0.85 and height to width ratio of 1.2. So while conducting the experiment, we have prepared the sample by placing the initially we placed the tank on the shake table, and then we use the hopper for to achieve the homogeneity of soil preparation. And after one layer of sample preparation, the tunnel was placed, as we can see from figure C, and further the soil preparation was conducted until the height of 600 mm was achieved. So after preparing all the sample, input motion of 0.2G, 0.3G and 0.4G was used, and subsequently for monitoring the displacement and strain on tunnel, we have used the digital image correlation for estimating these displacement and strain. Basically, these digital image correlation involves speckling of images, as we can see in the figure. And after speckling, we take a reference image before conducting the test. And further, after during the test, we take subsequent images continuously, which will be called as a deformed images. So these reference image and deformed images both will be correlated together so that we could be able to find, calculate the displacement and strain. From this, after conducting this experiment, we could, the result shows that the maximum settlement initially for 0.2G shaking, because of medium dense ground condition, there was no much settlement. But however, for the 0.3G, because of higher intensity of shaking, maximum densification was occurred. This can be validated by looking at 0.4G shaking, where comparatively lower maximum settlement have been observed. When we look into the second case of height to width ratio of 1.2, we can see that for the 0.2G itself, because of higher frequency of loading, maximum settlement occurred in 0.2G, but subsequently for 0.3G and for 0.4G shaking, comparatively lesser settlement was observed. When it comes to this acceleration response on tunnel, 2 accelerometers on the longitudinal dimension we placed at the top of the tunnel, and we could see that the front end of the tunnel is having higher displacement acceleration response compared to the rear end of the tunnel. We also measured the maximum acceleration response within the soil, and we can see that because of soil nonlinearity and non-uniform densification, the maximum acceleration response is higher at the top and lower at the bottom. And from the DIC results, we could see here that with input motion, the peak displacement of tunnel increased. And when it comes to strain, because of a load sharing mechanism between the tunnel and the surrounding soil, initially for 5 Hz frequency, the maximum strain increased with input motion. But whereas when it comes to height to width ratio of 1.2, because of confinement effect, for the 0.3G itself, maximum strain has occurred, and subsequently for 0.4G, slightly reduction in strain was observed. And this work has been published in International Journal of Geotechnical Engineering. And finally, I would like to conclude for this objective, where the 5 Hz loading frequency during repeated checking events influenced the increment in soil densification. And because of the load sharing mechanism between the soil and tunnel, about 14.9 to 58% increment in dynamic earth pressure was observed during 0.3G. And for the 0.4G shaking, dynamic earth pressure reduced. This could be due to the maximum embedment depth and also the overburden cover, which is affecting the tunnel soil interaction behavior. And further, for the height to width ratio of 0.85, about 29 to almost a significant increment was observed in strain, which means that with input motion, because of the lower confinement, comparatively higher strain was observed. So for the case of height to width ratio of 1.2, reduction in strain is observed, which is due to the improved confinement offered by the adjacent ground. So after completing this one set of experiments, we try to understand how the saturation of soil would influence the tunnel soil interaction behavior. For that, initially we fabricated the square tunnel, and then we varied the saturation of ground by theoretically estimating the water content required for achieving the soil sample preparation. And as told previously, the 0.1G to 0.45G input motion have been used to replicate, to simulate influence of aftershock and foreshock events. For the square tunnel, we molded the sample with 270 mm by 270 mm dimensions, and after sample preparation of one layer, we placed the tunnel, and through wet sedimentation technique, we have completed the soil sample preparation, and then we used instrumentation of 2 accelerometers, 4 pore pressure sensors, and 1 displacement sensors to monitor tunnel soil interaction behavior. This graph of input motion shows that after 0.1G, after complete dissipation of pore water pressure, the subsequent input motion have been given. The result shows that for the 25% saturation case, no significant improvement is observed. Even for 50% also, no excess pore pressure has been developed. But for the 0.2G shaking, subsequent loading, slightly comparatively higher pore pressure is developed, although at the top there was no significant pore pressure development. But when it comes to 0.3G and 0.4G shaking, because of shaking history and also because of higher peak ground acceleration, both together involved, along with shaking duration of 40 seconds, which played a major role to develop higher pore water pressure during 0.3G and 0.4G shaking. And this was continued even during the 0.5G shaking also, and comparatively 75% saturation ground has influenced more pore water pressure compared to all other cases. And we could see here that because of this development of pore pressure, the displacement of tunnel increased with input motion, and physically we could observe a longitudinal crack along the tunnel for the case of 50% saturation, and for the case of 75% saturation, complete collapse of tunnel along with the heave was observed. After completing these series of tests, we further moved to how fully saturated ground could influence the tunnel soil interaction behavior. And we could see that for the case of 0.1G shaking, there was no much input, significant pore pressure was developed, but during subsequent 0.2G to 0.5G shaking, because of complete saturation and the vertical displacement of tunnel from 0.2G to 0.4G have been observed in the case of 100% saturation. Here, primarily, the shallow embedment depth is played a major role for tunnel upliftment. So from this, we could conclude that the influence of shaking history and duration of shaking along with the peak ground acceleration has played a major role for increasing the pore pressure response. And also for for the shallow confinement characteristics and variation in situ stresses, displacement of tunnel increased both with increment in soil saturation and incremental shaking event. So, but for the case of 100% saturation, complete liquefaction occurred for during 0.2G to 0.5G shaking, and the variation in situ stresses caused tunnel to uplift. After this set of experiments, we moved to understand how the scaled down earthquake could affect the tunnel performance. So here we have, instead of going for sinusoidal waves, we have used the scaled down earthquake. And we here also we varied 50 to 100% saturation as a test cases. And further, we fabricated our tunnel mount of dimension 195 mm internal diameter and external diameter of 245 mm with the length of tunnel as 740 mm. And in order to scale down these tunnel, the scaling laws have been used, and accordingly, the time of input motion and frequency was scaled down and given as a input motion. These are the instrumentation details where 4 accelerometers and 4 pore pressure sensors have been used with 2 displacement sensors. And also we prepared the soil sample similar to the previous cases, where until the desired height of 850 mm was achieved, till then we prepared the sample with calculated water content. This is the figure which shows the input motion details, where in order to replicate 2 foreshocks, main shock and aftershock events, we have used Kobe earthquake, Imperial Valley earthquake, Chichi earthquake, and Tohoku earthquake. And here we could see that incrementally the duration is increased from Kobe to Tohoku earthquake. Based on the after conducting the experiment, we could see here that at the tunnel embedment depth, almost slightly reduction in acceleration response have been observed, and also the 100% saturation test cases has tend to liquefy. So because of which lower acceleration response was observed. The primary reason for reduction in acceleration response is because at mid depth disturbance due to shaking causes densification, due to which slight reduction in tunnels acceleration response have been observed. This is the figure where which we can understand how these tunnel soil interaction behavior can be understood. Initially, when we give the shaking, soil settlement will occur, and because of this shaking, pore pressure generation will happen, and this pore pressure generation will reduce the confinement effect, because of which tunnel displacement will occur. So these tunnel soil interaction could also be interpreted using the pore pressure response, where from top to bottom the pore pressure is increased, which is primarily due to the overburden pressure. And we measured the displacement of tunnel, and we could see here that for the initial case of Kobe earthquake, not much significant displacement was observed. But whereas for the case of subsequent Imperial Valley earthquake, comparatively higher displacement is observed. But for the case of Chichi earthquake, because of main shock event, which is having a higher peak ground acceleration, significant displacement of tunnel was observed. And subsequently, for the case of Tohoku earthquake, because of longer shaking duration, comparatively higher displacement is observed. And for the case of Tohoku earthquake, comparatively lower displacement is observed. This is primarily due to the influence of shaking history, which influenced the densification of ground during main shock event, which is due to which lower displacement is observed for the case of Tohoku earthquake. From these, we can conclude that primarily the shaking duration and also the peak ground acceleration along with the shaking history played a major role, and the soil saturation significantly influenced the dynamic performance of tunnel. And from the estimated pore pressure ratios, it is evident that the influence of saturation is affecting the tunnel soil interaction performance, which significantly led to soil liquefaction. So application of repeated shaking contributed in densification as discussed in the previous thing, which due to which accumulation of stresses occurred at the tunnel top. This has led to the displacement and strain on the tunnel. So this is the end of the test series through experiments, and after completing all this, we moved to numerical approach where we validated our numerical model through UBC 3D PLM model, and we have measured parameters such as excess pore pressure ratio, settlement of soil and displacement of tunnel, similar to the previous cases. For conducting this numerical study, we have used the interface reduction factor of 0.66 between the tunnel and the surrounding soil. And in order to model the tunnel, we have used plate element, and the parameters associated with the constitutive model have been calculated based on the SPT n value, and this SPT n value is correlated with the equations given in the Plaxis 3D tutorial or constitutive material model manual. And after calculation of all this, we have done several trials, and we come to certain set of results where we could see that around 10 to 15% variation in numerical model with experiments have been observed. And after validating the numerical model, we moved to scale up these model, and according to the scaling factor of 1:20, we converted everything into the prototype, and we try to give the boundary conditions of viscous boundary and along with the compliant base at the bottom in order to simulate the dynamic input motion. And these Rayleigh damping coefficients have been calculated based on the wavelength of input motion. And we, similar to the validated model, we calculated the input parameters required for modeling the tunnel. And here we have to reduce the seismicity of tunnel along with the soil, we have used stone column technique, where all the parameters have been calculated based on the SPT n value, which I told in the initial slides, and the Poisson's ratio of 0.2 with the elastic modulus of 3 to 10 power 6 MPa have been used for tunnel model. This is the stone column configuration which we have used, where for 5 meter and 10 meter depth, two variations we did, and two rows of column and 8 rows of column have been installed, and we try to see how can we reduce the upliftment of tunnel which we observed in the previous experiments. So we can see here that for the case of 10 cross 2 configuration, no much reduction in soil settlement is observed, but whereas for the case of 10 cross 8 arrangement, we could see drastic reduction of up to 39% is observed. And also the pore pressure development for the case of without stone column, almost complete liquefaction had occurred, but for the case of stone column installed at 5 meter depth, still there was no much improvement, but only at the shallow depth, slight reduction of excess pore pressure can be seen in this figure. But for the case of subsequent 10 meter depth, although up to 10 meter, we could see the reduction in pore pressure. We still at the bottom, there was no significant improvement. So further, we varied our stone column configuration where for the case of 5 meter, there was no improvement. But for the case of 10 cross 8 configuration for 10 meter depth, stone columns installed at 10 meter depth, almost significant improvement have been observed. This can be validated through the displacement of tunnel, where for the case of stone column installed at 10 cross 8 configuration, significantly reduce the upliftment of tunnel. So from this numerical investigation, we could see that 10 cross 8 arrangement is ideal if we install the stone column up to 10 meter depth. And the major conclusion from this research is primarily for the case of dry ground conditions, both frequency, shaking history, and embedment depth is playing a major role. And due to the influence of shaking history and longer shaking duration, for the case of varying saturation ground, development of pore pressure has taken place. And for the case of fully saturated ground, this has induced tunnel uplift, which we try to address in our numerical study. And for the case of circular tunnel, when subjected to a combination of core shock, aftershock, main shock, and aftershock events, primarily shaking history of and peak ground acceleration has a major factor which affected the tunnel displacement. From this, we can also say that through numerical study, both densification and drainage effect of stone column can be used effectively to mitigate the tunnel uplift and improve the performance of tunnel. And this study has some of the limitations where we can not exactly replicate the stress which occur in the field condition. And also, we did not take any measure to scale the metric section and pore pressure dissipation. That is one of the limitation. And also, the we have just started the how we can use numerical simulations effectively to simulate the ground improvement, but still more work is required where the spacing of stone column, influence of stress concentration ratio, and several other factors have not been considered in our study. And also the influence, only the validation has been done for single earthquake, but we can also consider the multiple shaking events in our numerical study to further enhance our work. And there are some of the future scope of my present work where the observed performance or the parameters can be used for understanding the real-time monitoring of tunnel structures. And we can also extend our study to centrifuge tests where particularly on slopy strata, minimum, very less studies are available. And primarily because this is a wider scope, because in the actual ground condition, the tunnel would be in the slopy strata. And also, we can also develop a fragility curve based on the conducted conducted experimental study and also the numerical simulations. And we can come up with how what are the vulnerability characteristics of these tunnels. And these are some of my outcome of our research, where initially the review paper was published in European Journal of Environmental and Civil Engineering. And then one research paper was published in International Journal of Geotechnical Engineering. And further, we recently, my work on circular tunnel under multiple shaking events has published in Tunneling and Underground Space Technology. And one more paper is currently under, we revised and we submitted our manuscript to Journal of Earthquake Engineering. And two more papers are there under preparation. And the three book chapters I have got through by attending some of the conferences, and I have also got 3 conference papers. And with this, I would like to conclude my topic on tunnel soil interaction behavior. And I would like to thank all of my supervisors, both at AcSIR and RMIT, along with LAC members, director at HOD and scientists at CBRI. And also, I would like to thank our thesis examiners for giving me a significant review on how the thesis can be improved. And also, I would like to thank the technical support given by the BIS company for state table facility, along with Abhishek, director of pyrodynamics, who helped me for understanding how effectively DIC can be used for measuring the displacement and strain. And also in the online platform for validating, I come across a lot of difficulty in validation. So people from Bentley have helped me online, and a lot of discussions have occurred. So I would also thank to them. And also further, after completing my 4.5 years of my research in India, I moved to RMIT University in Australia, and there I conducted this numerical study, and there I would like to thank my faculties, and also primarily my supervisors there, and also Dr. Vicky Chan and Dr. Mohammed Sabarian for their giving suggestions for how we can do the research effectively. And also I would like to thank the funding agencies both at India and Australia for giving me the funding for 6 years total. And I would like to thank all of the people among our friends where they have given significant input in while discussing the both technical and non-technical part. And after all this, I cannot leave our labor's manpower, who gave significant input when there was a labor scarcity we faced. So this research has not been possible without them. It's not that iterative. All these people have contributed to effectively to do this research. So I would like to complete here, and I'm open for any kind of questions.
Professor Shantanu Patra.
Yeah.
So he has completed his presentation. So if you want to give your queries, you can please.
Yeah, very good presentation, and very on time. I think you have taken less than 40 minutes. So, and you showed a very exhaustive work on this topic. So some questions I have already asked during the examination, thesis evaluations. So if you have those questions, you can answer. Do you have those questions with you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Basically, this is the question which have been asked by you, Professor.
Yeah, so you can skip the formatting and some minor comments. Some technical comments you can discuss.
One minute, Professor. It's in a different document, so.
Say that, no?
Yeah, these are the fine. These are the fine. You can discuss some.
Major changes were made that you
say that 1, 2, 3.
Professor, the questions have been asked regarding the boundary effects, and also how these acceleration response at A0 and A1 would differ, which will affect the whether it is following the plane strain conditions or not.
Yeah,
Here, we observed actually at 2 different locations, A0 and A1, because of the non-linearity of ground and also the non-uniform densification of ground, variation in acceleration response have been observed for 0.2G to 0.4G shaking. And also we addressed the issue of boundary effect by calculating the thickness according to the Lombardy, where thickness of foam, and accordingly we given the input this one. But after this, we have also addressed the issue of the scaling loss by calculating the thickness of the ratio of thickness of foam material to the length of model box. If it is greater than 3%, which means that there is a significant boundary effect. So in order to reduce that, we calculated the ratio and we could see that it's less than 3%. So there was no boundary effect observed.
So can you
And
show your model test diagram?
Yes.
And you can tell me about how much space is there along the longitudinal directions of the tunnel.
In this figure, the C placing of tunnel C figure, you can see that 2 accelerometers have been placed, and the distance. Yes.
Along the length directions of the tunnel, from the boundary to the tunnel boundary, what is the distance you have allowed?
From two, the Professor, are you asking about the distance between the accelerometers or from one end to the another end?
Yeah, one end to another end.
One end to the another end is 750 mm.
Sorry, how much?
750 mm, 750.
750. And in
Yes.
between, you have to put something. What is those things?
That's a kind of membrane where to arrest the significant disturbance, we try to use that one, but still because we could not able to control the movement.
Can you show that with your cursor that the distance you are telling? What is the distance? If you can
Yes.
show.
From this.
Use that same figure. Yes.
From this end to this end, the distance is 750 mm.
Yeah. And where your tunnel ends? It is attached to the your perspex wall.
Yes, it is attached to the perspex wall.
Yeah. In that case, how it is a three-dimensional model? It's not. It is a plane strain model.
No, Professor. Actually, here, even though it can be considered as a plane strain model, here we have given some liberty to movement. We have not completely arrested the tunnel movement. We before conducting these tests, we have done several other tests where we try to reduce the movement, but still we could not able to arrest. We tried to simulate the plane strain condition, but physically it was not actually possible to arrest the movement completely. So because of the overburden soil and the continuous shaking of around 40 seconds, we observed variation in acceleration response between two two locations.
Okay, you can go to the next question.
One
Next question.
Yes.
Move the slide.
Why were two different scales selected for the circular and square tunnel? Please provide justification. Actually, Professor, for the square tunnel, we initially fabricated for 30 mm thickness, and also the mold which we used, we could able to vary the thickness. But when it comes to circular tunnel, we attempted to reduce the model. We attempted to initially go for 1:10 ratio only, but here the problem is in the field conditions, the thickness of tunnel will be around 500 mm. So if you want to scale for 1:10, it was not possible for us. That's why just to replicate the field conditions, we have used 1:20 ratio.
Okay. Next.
And for the 1G shaking table test, both square and circular tunnel are considered. However, in the numerical analysis, only the circular section is analyzed. Why was the square tunnel not investigated? Please clarify if there are any specific reasons. Professor, here I would like to highlight that mostly there are in the field circular tunnel is available, and it is better if we scale up the circular tunnel and do numerical analysis instead of square tunnel. Square tunnel, we have used it primarily just as a kind of conservative site because it square tunnel is highly vulnerable compared to the circular tunnel.
Okay. So because you have already both sets of data, you could have validated it with Square also. That was
I completely understand, Professor, but to be frank, for this itself, it was like the time was more. So
okay.
In the future, we will be addressing that if possible.
Yeah, hard work already done. Square tunnel model test, it takes a lot of time. I think numerical model will take less time. Yeah, you
Yes,
can think
Professor.
of another paper on that. Okay,
Yes,
next.
Professor.
Is there any other questions?
Yes, Professor. You have asked. 1 minute, Professor. How have you ensured the boundary reflections or container effects? Can you able to see, Professor?
Yes, yes, you can make it a little bit full scale. Yeah, fine. This is fine.
As I told earlier, the boundary reflections was arrested based on the equations available through Lombardi, where we can calculate the estimated thickness and see how this boundary effect can be reduced. That is one part. And the second part is in the literature, the ratio of foam thickness to the length of model, if it is not greater than 3%, which means it says that there will not be any undesirable wave reflection. This is the reason why the boundary effect was not been found in this. And how does tunnel shape affect tunnel soil interaction under seismic loading? I think this is the future work which I mean you suggested me previously that we will be addressing. But in order to answer this question, the square tunnel will have a higher vulnerability than the circular tunnel under seismic loading. That only that I can say, because I have not identically compared my all the input parameters, everything only by considering the two shapes. So this will be a future work, Professor. And what challenges or limitations prevented the inclusion of square tunnel in the numerical model? This was told in the previous question.
Yeah, okay. You can skip that.
How have the tunnel and surrounding soil been modeled in Plaxis? Tunnel have been modeled as a plate element, and for soil we used UBC 3D PLM model, and this has been primarily used for to measure the excess pore water pressure. Only this model is effective in the praxis. So this model is have been used. What is the basis for selecting only 4 earthquake time histories for your study? Yep. In our the primary novelty of my research is to see how foreshock, main shock, and aftershock events would influence the tunnel soil interaction behavior. So this is the central part of my study, where for all the cases I have tried to address this one. So this is the reason why I have given the only 4 earthquake have been selected and simulated in my experiments. This what constitutive model have been used for the soil, and what is the justification of selecting it? Before validating our numerical model, I have also tried with hardening soil model and also with Moore Coulomb model, along with the UBC 3D PLM model. In Moore Coulomb and also in hardening soil model, we could not able to measure effectively the pore pressure, and whatever we did, that was comparatively much higher variations were there. And I also, when I tried with the UBC 3D PLM model, comparatively a lesser variation came when compared to the experiment. So this is the reason why I have selected the UBC 3D PLM model.
Okay.
What are the limitations of the present study? As I included in the previous slide, we have not simulating the in situ stresses is difficult, and the scaling of metric section we have not done, and influence of spacing, influence of stress constant ratio, and these things can be addressed. This is one of the limitations, and influence of multiple shaking events have not been considered while conducting the numerical study.
So
How
these
would you-
limitations are now
Yes.
added in your thesis?
Yes, Professor, it has been included.
Okay.
How would you expect the numerical results to differ if the square tunnel have been analyzed? In my perspective, there will not be much variation, but only thing is the longitudinal bending would occur in place of oiling deformation, because in case of circular tunnel, oiling deformation would occur, and for the case of square tunnel, because of higher stress concentration ratio, there will be longitudinal bending.
So which condition you think the cross section thickness should be more, circular or square?
Circular, Professor.
Circular section should have thicker sections, you are telling, compared to square?
Are you asking about the thickness?
Yeah, cross section thickness of the structural thickness of the tunnel section.
Square tunnels must be having lower thickness, because when we reduce the thickness, flexibility ratio will also increase, and it will behave like a flexible material. But when we increase the thickness, then it will act as a rigid material. So thickness should be less for the square tunnel.
Are you sure that? Are you sure about that? What about your shear criteria?
Professor, this part, whatever I informed previously, that I have got to know these things through literature only, and only we can come up with the exact answer only if we do certain sets of numerical analysis or the experimental study.
Okay, okay. You can think it later on. You can move on to the next. Yeah.
If we were to extend this work, what would be your next step? If you are giving a choice to repeat both the experimental and numerical studies, what improvements or modifications would you propose? As told in the previous few slides, I will include the influence of shape of tunnel and also instrumentation such as to measure the metric section can be used in order to address the gap of partial saturation, and also the numerical model can be validated with this square tunnel. And I can also extend this work by influence of spatial variability or no other numerical study have not been conducted significantly. So these primary parts can be included in my future improvement.
Yeah, but what you are suggesting, if you include it, your time to complete PhD will be extended. So without extending, what is the possibility?
If I want to filter with all these answers, I would go for better instrumentation to reduce the time. And only thing is, we have not effectively addressed how these partial saturation would affect the tunnel soil interaction behavior. We have just theoretically calculated the partial saturation value, and according to the water content, we try to prepare the sample, but in actual air voids will also plays a major role. That can be done only when we use a proper instrumentation to measure the metric section. So that will be a kind of cap as of now.
Okay. So is that the last questions? Is done?
Yes, Professor.
Okay. So some with in addition to that, I have some more queries, not questions. So from your presentation, I saw that you have considered H upon W, that is, I think, height or depth to width ratio. Huh?
Yes, yes.
Two ratio you have considered, 0.85 and 1.2.
Yes, Professor.
And why so? Why this two magic number? Is there any specific reason?
The primary reason for selecting this only two height to width ratio is because if we increase the height to width ratio beyond 2 in field conditions, it will replicate a deeper tunnel. So our only focus is to replicate the shallow tunnel. That's the reason. And we have also constraints of shake table height, where we can only achieve up to 1 meter or 900 mm depth. This is the reason why only two embedment depths have been considered as of now.
Okay. In one slide, I saw you have also considered 1.3. Is that right?
Yes, Professor. Actually, yes. Like our focus is primarily, irrespective of whether it's more than the embedment depth, Professor, we wanted to achieve the relative density of 45%, which can replicate 72% equivalently in the field. And when we look into the square tunnel, we have achieved 900 mm depth, and there also in the field conditions, the 72% relative density is achieved. Here, more than the embedment depth, the relative density is primarily plays a major role while preparing the sample.
Okay, so how many relative density you have considered in your analysis?
I have only considered 52% relative density in for the experiments, Professor.
52%. And what is the equivalent density for field?
72%.
72%. Have you considered this any particular site condition in mind?
I did not understand, Professor. Could you please repeat?
And 72% relative density, is it related to
No.
any site-specific value?
And it's not a site-specific value. We wanted to simulate a like medium dense to dense ground conditions in a field conditions, basically.
Okay. So,
And also in the case of this, which if I 1 minute, if I want to show this slide. This Delhi region has a similar relative density of ground and also the shear wave velocity of whatever the soil we have considered in ROORKEE region. So we are trying to simulate a similar set of ground conditions of Delhi region.
okay, but Delhi silt, but you are doing on sand. So how it will be applicable for Delhi region?
Because in Delhi region, mostly it contains silty sand deposits, at least particularly until 30-meter depth. So we, considering that, I did it.
Okay. Now tell me another thing. From your fast test results, you said about 0.4 G earth pressure is reducing. But is it right? Means with the earth, it is a dense conditions. Okay. Then so what is the reason that earth pressure is reducing as per your understanding?
Here, two things are there: earth pressure at the tunnel top and earth pressure inside the ground. I am talking about the earth pressure inside the at the tunnel top is getting reduced. The reason is densification is occurring within the soil, and the load sharing mechanism completely is from tunnel to the surrounding ground. So higher earth pressure is there within the soil compared to the tunnel top.
So you are observing higher earth pressure at the tunnel site during
Yes,
checking?
yes.
On the top it is lower.
Yes, on the top it is lower compared to the surrounding ground.
Now, is it possible that on the top the relative density is not achieved as you are supposed to get? Means your topsoil maybe remains loose.
Professor, that could be the possible, but we have taken some of the soil samples to calculate in a small.
In about during 0.4 G, you respond in that.
Only at the 0.4 G you are asking, Professor?
Yeah. When 0.4 G, what about the conclusion you made now there in that slide? Yeah.
What is the reason for the reduction? You talk into that line, particularly for 0.4.
I think this primary reason is because the load is acting within the soil compared to the tunnel top.
I understand you said that it is becoming densified and so stress distribution is happening, so pressure is reduced. Huh? That is the point. No? So because your soil is dense soil, so if during shaking it should be loosened and should not be densified. So I was thinking, is it that on the top your soil become loose compared to the site? Just observation.
Yes, that I think that is a primary reason, Professor. That I will accept that one.
Okay, so I am almost at the end. So with your 4-year learning and studying in this particular topic in detail, what will be your design recommendation? Because you have started with that because of earthquake, many tunnel got collapsed. So how you will prevent collapse of tunnels from your research? So can you give 1-2 points? So if we take those consideration, it can be prevented.
From the literature as of now, whatever I have studied, most of the tunnels have been constructed without considering the seismicity. The primary reason is the overburden pressure within the soil will act as a confinement, which will have a lower effect for the actual tunnel. But the understanding currently, whatever the tunnel which is being constructed, that needs to be incorporated with specific seismic design. Then only we can able to address the issue.
You are telling that seismic consideration should be there. Okay. Any other issue if you specific thing?
The specific thing is most of the tunnel have been designed with a single earthquake event, and multiple shaking events have not been. I don't think they have incorporated, because still it is the multiple shaking incorporation have still it is at the research stage. It has not been implemented. So this is one of the primary focus of my additional points.
Okay, so
Or,
yeah, another
for the-
thing I think you have done one thing is that ground improvement technique, stone column effect of using stone column for, you know, prevent uplift.
Yes.
Anything you will suggest? Which cases you will provide stone columns for existing tunnel?
For the existing tunnel, we can use the ground improvement technique, but only like as of now, I have tried only up to 10-meter depth, but with spacing and with L by D ratio and all. In the ground condition which I use is currently the 10x8 with 10-meter depth.
Suppose this is side A and side B. Which side you will use? And what would be the possible condition of the site? What would be your guess?
As a design engineer point of view, based on your research experience, that's what the proper question is.
Stone column can be used effectively to mitigate the liquefiable ground, and specifically, if we look at this case,
If I'm giving you the country, this soil or this soil, and then you would have a very shallow that is right.
when the tunnel is at shallow depth, and when there is a loose ground condition, specifically if it is a liquefiable ground, I will go for the stone column technique.
Okay. Just one more comment and then I will stop. So what is the mechanism that plays in the stone column that improves your performance? Just tell in one sentence or two sentences.
Basically, when we install the stone column, the surrounding ground will densify, because of which the reduction of pore water pressure will happen. And the moment when pore pressure reduces, upliftment will reduce.
Okay, those are from my side. If you have questions in the internal, you can ask.
Thank you, Professor Patra. And now I am opening this for the DAC members. Right?
I only figure that you told us that you the model the numerical part you calibrated it with SPT value.
Yes.
How do you experiment the SPT value there?
Actually, there is one relation between the SPT value and the relative density.
Go to that.
So that's directly related to relative density. Here is the empirical relation to go to SPT and then from SPT to model parameters, right?
Yes. Primarily, I have taken the relative density, and there is a relation to calculate this.
Depending on the soil type you have
Yes.
used and then convert.
Yes.
Now the second. here UBC 3D PLM model, modularization damping ratio curve is incorporated, right?
Yes.
It is called.
Yes.
And what is your opinion? Like, suppose I guess one thing that you have simulated the small scale numerical model also and the prototype numerical model as well, right? Now, my question is, what is your opinion that the response? Suppose you take it in terms of full automation or in terms of surface setup. What is the difference between when you do it in a small scale numerical model and a prototype scale?
Numerical model in the laboratory scale.
Both scale. Numerical model, suppose you are doing the tunnel for what experimental dimension you have done and the actual dimension, right? Both you have done, you have shown. Like prototype dimension you have arrived. So, what is your opinion that when I'm doing a numerical modeling, especially for the dynamics or structure interaction, what is the difference in terms of response of the small model and a prototype model for the same motion?
For the same motion, but depending on the scaling ratio, that response will have a higher. But here, the stress which is acting in the field conditions will never be like equivalent to the actual in the scale down. So,
which parameter you think that is significantly deviating in case of when you do it in a prototype scale and when you put it in a lab scale? Numeric. There could be pore temperature, there is surface settlement, and then what are the other parameters? Acceleration response. Which parameter do you think that is most affected on the prototype scale?
I think acceleration response will be primarily affected and followed by the pore water pressure.
Followed by the pore water pressure.
There is no change in the institution.
Sir, I will complete, sir. Actually, the third parameter which I would like to say is the shear modulus of ground between the
Gmax will be different.
Gmax. So that will affect the laboratory scale and the full scale.
Because I think the acceleration response is primarily governed by your Gmax.
Gmax,
from
yes.
where you are starting.
Yes.
If your lab and prototype are almost same, then
Yes.
The field will degrade little less. Here it will be, I mean, the laboratory will be much stiffer, na?
Yes.
They're using high Gmax value as same as field. Okay. That is my just observation. Others.
Dr. Kishore, I think he's not out. Okay. Professor Lee,
If you want to add.
if you want to add anything, please.
Not really. Not really. And because Amis done his milestone, at MIT, so we already asked him a lot of questions there. So I don't have any first question. And given all the other experts ask a lot of questions, I'm okay. I'm happy with what he has done so far. Yeah. Jianhu, do you have any question?
No, similar to you. I think we have asked him all the questions we are in mind. Also, I'm happy with his his defense. Thank you.
Professor, if possible, could you please speak louder if you don't mind?
He said,
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for giving me this chance. We have asked you the question during the milestone when you did at MIT. So yeah, there's no more questions from me. Yeah, I just gave the chance to other committee members. Thank you.
any questions from online, offline members? Okay, thank you, Professor. Professor Patra, with your permission, can we tell him about the pass of the exam? Can we declare? Can you please declare him?
Yeah,
whether he
yeah,
passed the exam?
it's my privilege. So congratulations, Dr. Amit, for wonderful work, for your dedications. keep going like this and contribute more on, research and technological field. All the best. Huh?
Thank you, Professor.
Professor Shen and Professor Lee.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Okay. Congratulations, Amit.
Professor, I would like to thank for your support and for coming to my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. Professor Patra, can you switch on the cam so that we can have a photo?
Yeah, my camera having some problem. You may have some black zone. That's why I have not switched on. Let me try with
Just
another
2 minutes.
system. Let me join from my mobile. Huh?
Sure. Please.
Go inside. Na?
Professor Patra.
Professor Patra, take- take the brief. It would switch to Patra, where is the on the cam? No. That they will see him only. Okay. You come here. You come here.
I'm trying to connect through my mobile.
Ah.
Is it
Okay.
showing request?
You said just send the request.
Yeah, I think now.
No, he is going to go into pop up. No, I have given access to him. Okay. That,
Sir, yours. Yes, members and
now you what you do, you zoom in him. You take one this photograph and then zoom in.
only have to take. Sorry.
So you can bring him, just ping him. Na? Bring him in front. One second. He will say, oh, you take another photograph. Thank you, Dr. Patra.
Thank you, Professor.
Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Lee, and thank you,
Professor Shen.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Take everyone.
Hey, thank you. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
आपका फोटो ले लो. You take a photograph ना.